Everyone. Just rolling out some clay here, and I just checked my my Instagram messages, and I just took a shower too, so my hair's fluffy in the morning. So, you know, I really like thin hair. But I just got this. When people leave Instagram messages on my page, everyone can read them. So, sometimes like this message, if for instance, if someone from Norway were to read through my Instagram messages and see that my dad, someone saying they're good to see my dad's making pots again, that could be misinterpreted somehow. That could be viewed as in maybe he just started making pots again since I've come to Norway, and so again, if this was something recent, if he had stopped making pots like a year ago, and he took like a couple months off, that's one thing. But you're writing this stuff on my page so everyone can read it. It's personal information, and you're not being very clear about what it is you're talking about. So let me just explain. I'm gonna post this on YouTube. In 2010, actually it was 2009. My dad decided to take a break. He needed a new kiln. The kiln he built in 1976, I believe. And I did a whole YouTube video of this once when I was showing everyone my dad's shop. But the kiln was hand built by him with bricks, and it's a big kiln that you can walk into, gas fired. And he didn't need anything that big anymore, but he needed a new kiln. It's one of these things. When you're a potter and you're surviving off of your artwork like that for so many years, and when you're in northern Michigan, where you have this tourist-based industry, you learn to live by the influx of customers that come in the summer and then leave, come in the summer and then leave. So you just end up preparing that way. That was even more so the case back in 2010, when the internet wasn't nearly as what it is now. And and you got to understand, my dad is someone I don't even know if he even had the computer back in 2010. He was very not computer savvy. So he doesn't do any marketing. He doesn't go to art fairs anymore. He has his income with his pottery. He was very aggressive potter, wanting to do a good business when he first started. This is before the internet. This is before all the art fairs that I've done. This is when my mom was working. He was working. My mom was supporting the household along with my dad, but they had joint incomes. So the situation was different the first few years when my dad started the pottery. It wasn't like it is now, where I can go to an art fair. You just easily look up art fairs on the internet. Easy to find numbers now. It was very difficult. If you remember, 20 years ago, to find a phone number for how to get to an art fair down in Royal Oak, or there weren't even that many art fairs anyways. But what I'm saying is I was so successful at selling my work because I'm smart with the internet. I am single, so I didn't have anything else to worry about. I didn't have any other family or any other people to work with. So my dad, his business grew very well. He did very well, but it grew up into the internet culture. And by the time my dad was like, he wasn't petering out by any means, but he was getting, he had been doing it for 30 years now, and then the internet comes along. What is he going to do? All of a sudden start going to art fairs now that all of a sudden start selling stuff on the internet? I mean, by that time, my parents had to divorce. He was living in the house that he owned in northern Michigan. There wasn't any big plans for him to become this, to start some giant pottery. I do tiles. It wasn't like I was going to live with him, and like have a joint income with him and my tiles and his pottery. He has his own life. I have my life. For the longest time there, people thought that I was making tiles in his workshop. I mean, people assume this stuff. They don't know. And then they tell their friends, and then this big rumor starts, and then people have this perception of me. And you wonder why it's so important for me to tell people that I'm not I'm not calling it moving to Norway. So I do that. I tell the story about Carter Oosterhouse, how no one thinks he's moving to California just because he's a movie star. You know, you don't think of a potter like a ceramic tile artist like me that can do something like that. Well, when you've saved all this money and you've worked really hard and you utilize the internet for 15 years, you know, I made it work. And I wasn't showing everyone my income all the time at all, ever. But then it gets to the point where I want to, you know, this perception of this perception that people must have of artists like me, that I can't, you know, that no one knew I'd save so much money. I tried to tell everyone that by buying that property and showing you guys all my cash, showing you guys my gold coins periodically. I tried to show you guys, tried to tell any possible people out there, women from downstate, that I, you know, someone that my business was growing and I was making good money, that I had the possibility to, you know, have a family or something special with somebody with all this money I was saving. But no one understood that. No one seemed to see that, think that, and you know, I don't know. So you know, that's when I seriously decided to start going to Norway. So what I'm saying is all these little rumors and all these little things that people talk about, they do affect people's lives. And if you don't know what you're talking about, you shouldn't be saying it on Facebook and leaving messages on Instagram that everyone can read. Because in 2010, my dad, his kiln was falling apart, and he needed a new kiln. He didn't want to build or buy a new gas kiln because the way his shop was built, he had an extended kind of a building on the end of his other building that was built around this kiln that he built. So there was no doors to it. It would have been quite a big operation to cut a door through the sheet metal and then patch it up, and then, you know, haul in a new kiln, because he didn't want to build a new one anymore. It's quite an effort to build a new one, and he didn't need that much space. And yeah, you know, if he had been a mainstream pottery, he would have been planning for this. He would have, you know, he would have planned for it and whatnot. But you know, he wasn't planning for it. He was just you know, firing his kiln. It kept working. Why worry about it? You know, he'll figure it out when he needs to. So in 2010, I get my gallery in Fishtown, and he decided that would be a good time to take a break. So as you can see, this story that I'm telling everybody, it's quite a complex, involved story. It's a business story. It's a personal life story. It's got all these components to it that if my dad has to tell everybody. So one of the challenges in owning a business and marketing yourself is you have to talk to your customers. You're the spokesperson. So when you decide to make a big change like my dad did, you know, he had thousands of people really that he had to try to explain this to. And I've heard everything. I've heard so many rumors and stories. Every art fair, you know, I would hear people, my dad's back, is your dad's surgery okay? My dad never had surgery. His feet, his back, his knees, it was all kinds of problems that he had. Physical problems is what I was told. So I don't know what my dad told all the customers all those years. You know, he told them, you know, he is getting, everyone's getting older. He's getting older, so you know, he's not as physically aggressive as he used to be. So his back might be bothering him. His knees might be bothering him. He has flat feet, so those might be bothering him too. So he only ended up taking 1 year off, and you know, he really didn't even take a year off. He bought a new kiln because he went from gas to electric. And when you do that, you have to make a whole new array of glazes. And you can't just make one glaze and then open up your gallery for the summer. It's a process. It's like me coming here to Norway. I ordered all these materials from the U.S. because it's going to be a process. It's going to be less of a process for me to use the materials to get started that I already know work while I learn what they have here to use. It's a process. So my dad there was one summer where he wasn't open selling new pottery. He was open, but he was selling just the old leftover stuff. One summer, that was it. And you can see people still don't know they don't know what happened. And you know, I get people all the time telling me that that he, as you read in that post I just made, people are still 8-9 years later. They still think that he's just starting making pots again, and he took less than a year off over 8 years ago. So, it's an interesting story. It's proof about how my concern about what my thing is called, whether it's a move or whether it's living or it's an expansion of my business. It's many things. It's whatever I want it to be is what it's going to be. So when people start asking me and want me to label this stuff, there's no reason for me to do that, because there is no one label you can put on what it is I'm doing. So I hope that story about my dad and the post that I just posted helps to tell the story a little bit better.